A three-day ceasefire has begun in Sudan. This as several countries, including the United States, has removed diplomatic personnel from the African nation. British and Irish citizens arrived late yesterday in an airport on the Horn of Africa, but thousands of others remain in Sudan. More than 400 people have been killed in the fighting, with around 3,000 others wounded. The truce comes after 48 hours of negotiations. We go now to Bruin, president of the Global Situation Room. Brett, great to be with you today. This situation in Sudan is being described as unpredictable and volatile. And now the World Health Organization is saying that there is a huge biological risk as one of the warring sides has now occupied a laboratory that contains samples of diseases like measles. Brett, what are we looking at right now, and how potentially dangerous could this get?
Well, I think the answer is it could get a lot more dangerous. This is a very volatile region. But on top of that, as you cite, the WHO has come out naming this lab as one of the areas, there potentially are others, that has been captured by these rebellious factions. And that obviously poses a whole lot of risks. And the trafficking, Tracy, in those kinds of biological agents can fetch enormous prices on the international market. That's a real concern for leaders in Washington.
Yes, so concerning. And we also know that U.S. Special Forces helped to evacuate the U.S. Embassy over the weekend and bring diplomats home. But, Brad, there are still about 16,000 U.S. citizens still in Sudan, many dual nationals. What of them? And what's being done to bring them to safety?
Well, Tracy, this is part of a pattern that we've seen, whether it was in Afghanistan, also in the run-up to the war in Ukraine, where the Biden administration has somewhat detached themselves from the sense of responsibility for getting all Americans out, or at least as when I was a diplomat in the Foreign Service, we made every effort to get diplomats out. So this is concerning that we did only pull out those official Americans, because there are thousands of Americans, as you mentioned, who are left behind. And while, yes, some may have family ties or personal ties, there are a lot who are simply aid workers, who are missionaries, who are doing other important humanitarian support for the country. And we gave them no notice. Yes, the White House will say there was a general warning of do not travel, but we have that on lots of countries. We've got to go back and get them.
Yeah, and other countries like France, I know, they're pulling their citizens out of Sudan. So why is the U.S. not doing the same, Brett?
I think the short answer is politics. After the attack on our consulate in Benghazi, Libya, we've just been a lot more risk averse. And so both the Trump administration, but also the Biden administration, have not wanted to take the kind of risks that we used to. I did an evacuation of Americans in 2004 in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. The conditions there, there was open fighting in the streets. There were 10,000 or tens of thousands of protesters. It wasn't a permissive environment, and yet we went in, we got people out, because that is what in the diplomatic service we were trained to do.
So what do you think the U.S. and the international community should do right now, what we're seeing play out in Sudan? How should they get more involved?
Well, the first thing is we obviously do have leverage. This 72-hour ceasefire that was negotiated both by the U.S. as well as other international partners shows that we can impose, to a certain extent, the international community's will. We ought to do that to try and get more civilians, certainly our citizens, to safety, because it's in nobody's interest, neither the Sudanese army nor the rapid security forces, to be in a situation where foreign civilians are killed. Obviously, we want to prevent any kind of human life, but I think we impress upon them the importance of preserving human life and certainly giving us a chance to get as many civilians out of harm's way as possible.
But we have about 30 seconds left or so. Final thoughts.
I think we have to continue to press both in Congress as well as on the administration side to do more to get back in there and to get our people out so that we avoid another potential humanitarian tragedy.
Brett, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Always appreciate your insights. Thanks again.